Walton County Technical Review Committee meeting. Do we have any announcements this morning? There being none, we'll consider the minutes from the November 17th TRC meeting. Do we have any adjustments to those minutes?
I've reviewed them, Mr. Chair. I don't see any adjustments unless anybody else has any. I'll motion to approve the November 17th, 2021 TRC minutes as presented.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed likewise? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We'll move right into project review. Actually, why don't we consider all of these continuances? They appear to be somewhat in order. We'll take them as the agenda. Agenda item number 2, Emerald Coast Creative Concepts. Minor development reviewed by Tim Brown. It appears we have a request to continue to January 5, 2022 TRC at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Anyone representing the applicant this morning? Okay. Can we have a motion at the dais?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the January 5th, 2022 TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Moving to item number 3, the Tall Pines Daycare Addition, minor development reviewed by Bob Baronti. We have a similar request to continue to January 5. Applicant concur in that request. We'll take the recommendation of our planner. Do we have a motion at the dais?
Motion to continue.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the January 5th TRC meeting at 8:30 a.m. in this location. Moving to agenda number 4, the Destin Land Connection. We have a request to continue this item for 2 weeks to December 15th. It's a minor development reviewed by Kelly Schultz. Anyone representing the applicant this morning? Thank you, Kelly. We'll consider a motion to continue at the dais.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to December 15th, 8:30 a.m. in this location. Moving to agenda number 5, the Kaya Block 2, minor development reviewed by Bob Baronti. We have a request to continue this item to December 15th. Applicant concur in this request. Jenkins acknowledged for the record. We'll entertain a motion at the dais.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to the December 15th TRC meeting. Moving to agenda number 6, Sundial-WSRB LLC Amendment. This is a future land use amendment request. We have a request to continue to December 15th. Do we have anyone representing the applicant this morning? Thank you for that acknowledgement, Bob. We'll entertain a motion to continue at the dais.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to December 15, TRC at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 7. Stepping Stones Opportunity Place small-scale amendment with rezoning. Appears we have a request to continue this future land use map amendment to December 15. We'll hear from the applicant.
Yes, sir. Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering. We do request a continuance, and it's really in order to have a public meeting on the 8th, which will be December 8th from 4 to 6 at the Coastal Branch Library. There should be a mail out that went out yesterday that people should be receiving, and that's to take input, answer questions, and maybe make revisions to the request. So that is the reason for the continuance request.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate working with the community. Can we have a motion to the dais?
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is continued to December 15 at 8:30 a.m. in this location. That moves us to item number 8, the Nelly Preserve. This is a minor development application reviewed by Kelly Schultz. Kelly, can you introduce it for us?
So this is a request to approve by development order. The project number is MIN 21-000066. The minor development order application was submitted by Emerald Coast Associates on behalf of Leo Hong, requesting to develop 19 single-family homes, a pool, and associated infrastructure on 9.9 acres of land that has a future land use designation of conservation residential, a zoning district of conservation residential 2-1. The property is located within District 5. It's on the west side of Nelly Drive. The parcel number is in your staff report, and we'd like to request that the staff report be entered into the record.
So entered. Thank you, Kelly. We'll hear from the applicant.
Sean Humphrey with the Emerald Coast Associates. The staff report, there's really not too many comments that are outrageous or hard to accomplish. Though I have a question about the compensatory storage. There's a comment about the 2 feet of fill, and the compensatory storage was accounted for in the stormwater design. I wanted to make sure the base flood elevation is 7, and the natural elevation of the site is about 5.5 to 6. So the compensatory storage required is only up to that base flood elevation of 7, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I believe it is in the stormwater report. I'll double check to clarify or make more clarification on how that compensatory storage is attenuated. The second comment in there about the historical discharge goes towards the wetlands on the west side of the property. The wetlands are roughly around elevation 5. Water table is about 4.5. So there is no positive discharge out into the wetlands. The only way to make it to that mosquito control ditch would be to dig a channel or ditch for the piping. I think it's about 300 feet long to get that mosquito control ditch. So that's why we're discharging to Nelly Drive into that ditch. Would you rather us go through the wetlands?
I mean, typically, we like to keep the natural flow. I guess if you're going to try to use the Nelly Drive, I'd like to see some kind of conveyance, for that amount of discharge, because from Nelly Drive, where does it go? To Nursery, and then, Nursery, those ditches hold water all the time, and they're relatively shallow. So just kind of concerned about that. If we have a mosquito control ditch, I do understand not wanting to have to design for the 100-year storm event for the mosquito control ditch, so that
We have it designed for the 100-year storm event.
got them for all of them.
Yes.
Can you provide some conveyance or some reasonable assurance, we'll say, for the Nelly Drive discharge? I just get concerned about those limited right-of-ways and ditches. We don't have much on the side of Nelly and East Nursery there.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
And Sean, that also ties into one of our comments from Public Works about demonstrating positive outfall.
Yes.
Once you discharge in the right of way.
That was really the only thing I had for it. I know we have to get an updated environmental assessment. And there was a comment about getting a geotech.
I know you all did the geotech. You guys went out there and did hand augers and stuff
Yes.
to determine the water table for your wet detention pond. So a write-up of sorts that represents that geotechnical discovery, you know,
Sure.
pictures, data, soil type, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
That would be what we're looking for.
okay, then it's possible. Well, I just request that we approve it based on completion in the comments.
Well, here's sort of where I'm coming from on this.
Sure.
Given the concern in this particular neighborhood about stormwater, and we have some outstanding stormwater concerns, I'm not ready to conditionally approve this
Okay.
without those questions being answered. I think we owe that to the community, and I think you would support that. How soon do you think you could respond addressing all the comments?
I could get the comments back probably before Christmas, so continue to the first of the year.
Would that be the January 5?
I believe so.
I think that's what we have on our new date list.
Used that on a couple of those already, so.
That's right.
If that would be acceptable to you, then we'll entertain that motion at the dais.
That would be acceptable.
So with that being said, I'll motion to continue this project to the January 5th TRC.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Just in case we have folks here that want to ask any technical questions or make technical comments about compliance, we'll provide that opportunity to anyone who's here with us today. Anyone wishing to speak on this particular project? Yes, ma'am. If you could come to the podium and state your name for the record so we could get your comments on the record.
Thank you. Margaret Landry, and I'm sure they've addressed it, but I went through the staff report and I just didn't see it. I believe there's supposed to be a 60% vegetation set aside or something like that. And just from the look, it doesn't look like that's possible, but it might be, and I'm just not seeing it.
60% requirement to maintain open space.
Right. So is that
Um,
60%? So that was my only question about that. And then again, what you
Yeah,
said about the
we're-
flooding in the area, because that is where I live.
I think that may be addressed on the site data table, those calculations, if we could. see
It's,
it.
I'll double check it.
If not, if you would make sure that
59.4%.
that you respond to that in an adequate fashion
Yes.
Okay, thank,
when
that
you
was,
resubmit.
and then the flooding. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
ma'am. Anyone else wishing to make a comment or ask a question about technical compliance? Seeing no one else, we have a motion at the dais. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Hearing none, this item is continued to the January 5th, TRC at 8:30 a.m. in this location, subject to resubmittal. This moves us to item number 9. The Cascade at Sandestin. This is a major development reviewed by Renee Bradley. Renee, if you could introduce it for us.
Yes, sir. This is a major development order application submitted by Emerald Coast Association on behalf of the Sandestin Investments LLC. They're requesting to construct an 82-unit condominium and amenities on 4.66 acres with a future land use of mixed use and zoning district of Coastal Center. This property is located in District 5 and located on the corner of West Winds Drive and Sandestin Boulevard and is identified by the parcel ID in your packet. I'd like to enter the staff report into the record, please.
So entered, thank you.
We do have some outstanding comments. If it please the committee, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Okay.
Good morning. Dean Burgess with Emerald Coast Associates. We've received the staff report and have reviewed it, and I don't see any comments that are of concern. There were a couple of things that I did want to point out. One regarding parking. I'm sure everybody, at least on the TRC board, realizes that Sandestin does not have a parking requirement. What we will do is provide either from a parking expert or a parking analysis to demonstrate that what's being provided will be adequate, and that we will have a means of regulating owners to assure that there's not going to be a parking problem. Secondly, regarding the stormwater questions and flood analysis, basically that whole parcel is a flood zone X, with the exception of the pond, which is in flood zone A. And we do not intend to fill that pond. Basically, the parking will be over top of the pond. So I think there was a little confusion there that we were going to fill in the the pond where the parking garage is. It will, in fact, be elevated over the pond. There will be no reduction in capacity in that stormwater pond. Aside from those, I believe we can respond promptly to the comments and get it resubmitted.
This is Dana Matthews, also for the applicant. The issue on density. There was a note from planning that there's only 80 units allocated to this site per the NOPC that was adopted in ordinance 2017-12. In fact, in that ordinance, that there are 200 RDUs that are allocated among 3 sites on the south side of Highway 98. Sites 126, 121C, this is 121C is where Cascade's at, and 113B. Those 200 units can be used cumulatively among the sites according to the tables, and we're going to transfer 2 units from parcel 126 to 121C. So that will only have 38 left instead of 40. We'll have the 82 and 121C. It's a like-kind exchange, similar residential RDU, and provide for by the ordinance. So when we respond, then that will be our formal response. If there's any issue about that now, I'd like to hear about it.
Isn't there some language in some of these documents that prohibits that transfer?
Excuse me?
There's some language somewhere that prohibits that transfer?
No.
There's a prohibition of transfer of units from north to south or south to north. Correct. But not south to south.
Yes, and if you look at, this is Exhibit D2 to the ordinance 2012-17. If you go to the second page, this is where they allocate, the units among the south side. Under Section B, it says 200 RDUs cumulatively allocated to and developed on no more than 3 of the following parcels located south of U.S. Highway 98. Those are the 3 parcels I'm telling you about. So we have the right to take a like-kind exchange of 2 RDUs on one of those 3 parcels to move it. And it wasn't in the application. I apologize, but that's what we'll be doing.
I respectfully, sir, disagree with that. There is additional language in D2, and reading from the ordinance, it says specifically allocating 80 high-rise residential units allowing 24 stories unhabited space such as parking garages do not count as a story. Additionally, D2 specifications and restrictions on RDU allocates 3 states following: under no circumstances will the developer implement like-kind transfers, non-like-kind transfers, or land use adjustments of residential developments as described in Exhibit D7 in a manner that results in the development of residential entitlements inconsistent with the specifications and restrictions provided in this Exhibit D2. A copy of the ordinance was attached. And may be my misinterpretation, so I would ask that Steve take a look at this and see if I am misinterpreting, but I don't see how I can be.
Well, we'll look at it.
I'll get with Mr. Hall.
we'll defer that to the attorneys. Thank you, Renee. Any questions about any of the other comments? And I think the one about the SOA, planning comment number 4 was just, permission to use that airspace, recognizing you're not going to fill it in, but
We'll obtain a letter from SOA.
that's all we're looking for.
Like we have, we'll discuss that with them.
Okay.
I don't know that we're required to, but to the extent that you want to offer them, we will.
Any members of TRC have any other questions? Sammy, you good? Yeah. Okay. This is a major development. It'll get a public hearing at the appropriate time at Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. We'll take the opportunity to entertain any questions about technical compliance with the appropriate approvals at Sandestin from any member of the audience. Anyone here wishing to make a comment about technical compliance? Yes, sir. If you'd like to come to the podium and state your name for the record.
David Milam with Dunlap and Shipman. I'm here on behalf of 6 of the buildings that are adjacent or around the property that's being considered. 1 Beach Club Drive, West Winds, South Winds 1, 2, and 3, and Beachside 1. Our primary concern, and obviously we share an overarching concern about the development as a whole, but our primary concern is the flooding issue that is present in that area. I brought some pictures that I'd like to distribute, if I could. These are pictures of the flood event that occurred in the fall of 2020. And obviously, that flood event and the results of that occurred with basically nothing on that property except for a parking garage, a parking lot. We share the concerns, I think, that Dewberry made, and I believe there was a couple of other comments about the lack of clarity on the plans with regards to what is being filled in, if anything. I understand the representation today that there is no fill underneath the parking garage. That's not clear from the plans. We think it needs to be clear. These lakes that are there, they are part of a system of drainage. I know everybody in this room knows more about that than I do. We have consulted with an engineer, Nautilus, who did a hydraulic survey in December of 2018. And has done a lot of analysis on this. It is extremely critical that we understand what, if any, impact this development is going to have on that lake, because that's what it looks like right now when there's a flood event. And so I think it's critically important that the plans are clear as to what's being done there and how that's going to impact it. One of the things that I've, and I spoke to Mr. Matthews earlier, one thing that we are also unclear about, the lakes on parcel 121, as I understand it, are owned by the SOA. So the application says that this is a development on 4.66 acres of property. That takes into account those lakes, which are not owned by the applicant. So I don't, it may ultimately not impact the analysis at all, but I think that there's got to be some clarity on that, because based on the 2010 settlement agreement and then the subsequent quit claim deeds that I've located, those lakes don't belong to SDI. Now, I understand that as part of that 2010 settlement agreement, SDI is able to install piles in the lakes. But I think that the application needs to be clear as to what property we're talking about when we're analyzing whether or not that property and the development meets the applicable guidelines. I think it was acknowledged that the lakes, which of course are part of the application as it stands today, are in a flood zone A. I think that requires a base flood zone analysis. I think that is consistent with the questions that Dewberry raised as far as getting additional information with regards to the flood zone analysis. I think Ms. Ballard also made a comment with regards to that. I've referenced the question about whether or not there's fill under the garage, and I appreciate the clarification today, but I think we've got to have confirmation that that's not going to happen. There does appear to be fill under a walkway on the property, which I think would require some compensatory storage, but I think that'll be clarified in some updated drawings. Finally, one of the questions that was raised by our engineer, which I believe is as important, we understand that the ultimate impact on the flood zone and the drainage on this property, what it's going to be when this is all done, that is different than what it's going to look like during the development. And so one thing that we're concerned about is they are proposing to put piles in that lake, and we are interested to know how that's going to be done and how it's going to impact the property during the construction. Obviously, this construction may go on for 2+ years, and during that period of time, while the ultimate development may ultimately not have a big impact on the drainage and the flood zone there, we need to understand how they are going to pour those piles and how they're going to dam up the water or put a barge in there so that we know, so that we can address the problems during the development. So I think there's a lot of questions. There's obviously some questions raised earlier, a lot of questions raised today that I think need to be clarified before we can move forward. So, thank you.
Anyone else here wishing to make a technical comment or ask a technical question? Seeing none, would you like to respond to those?
Sure. We had our design group meeting the week before Thanksgiving, and actually what was raised with the pond and how it's handled during construction was a large topic of discussion. I can include as a comment from the neighbors in our response to TRC comments how that will be handled. I can tell you briefly, the intent was where the garage piles will be going in will be sheet piled. That sheet piling will be driven to an elevation lower than the design stage of the pond. So in the event that there's a rainfall event, it can overtop that sheet piling, and the area where work is being conducted will be available for storage in the event of a large rain event. We also intend to expand the pond to offset any volume that is taken up by the piles and pile caps. And we'll present an analysis that demonstrates what that volume is and where we'll be obtaining it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, in addition, that I've been having discussions with SOA through their council in terms of the same issue, about how water, and to clarify, to make sure the TRC members remember or understand, is that SOA does own this pond as well as all the other ponds, and they're also responsible for the maintenance of the pond and the stormwater issues. Obviously, we have to maintain stormwater on our own. We cannot cause problems afterwards, and typically after development, usually it's better than it was before. But we recognize that this is an integrated process of stormwater on the south side as well as the north side of Sandestin. We are working with SOA. David Smith is their engineer. We'll be working with, if Mr. Milam would share with us who his engineer is for their side, we'll be more than happy to have all the engineers be in the loop. So when we file a response, hopefully we won't have this issue come up in the Planning Commission. But we would like to move this to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
I think Mr. Milam indicated Curtis Smith.
Right. Pardon me?
Yes, sir. Curtis Smith.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
Was the engineer he referenced. Do we have additional questions from TRC?
Is there any way to provide storage on site for any of this impervious area that we're adding, just as exfil prior to discharge to these lakes? Or is there any way to increase capacity in that manner?
That's something that we've considered, and actually with, you know, the concerns of the neighbors and also locating permits for the existing lakes.
Exactly.
That probably is what we will end up doing as part of our resubmittal, is providing our 1 inch of storage and attenuating the Northwest Florida Water Management District 2-year storm with our system, and it will pop off to the lakes.
We're planning on, I mean, I would expect we would want to be going to Planning Commission in January.
That's our desire, yes, sir.
That's January 13th.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I may add, this project is more than just horizontally being designed. The general contractors and all the major subs have been involved in it for at least 90 days, and they've already got pre-sales, and they've already got their construction lending lined up. So as soon as we can practically get through the DO stage, they plan on turning dirt. This is not one that's going to be stretched out between the time of issuance and time of commencement. So that's why we'd like to keep on this schedule, if you don't mind.
Well, and I appreciate the need to do that. However, we need to be consistent in this room. We've continued projects for concerns about stormwater. And we've obviously had concerns raised this morning about stormwater. How soon do you think you can respond to comments? I mean, you're going to have to do that for Planning Commission anyway.
Correct. I believe a 2-week period is sufficient for us to respond.
Let's continue this to January 13th. Let's go ahead and advertise for Planning Commission. Stay on that schedule. But I think we need an opportunity to review stormwater to make sure that all of the concerns about compliance with the appropriate documents at Sandestin, and to provide the attorneys an opportunity to address the issue that was raised regarding the density transfer. Why don't we do that?
What would be the TRC date?
January 5th.
Advertised for January 13th.
And I would recommend going ahead and advertising for January 15th. We'll commit to staying on that schedule. Let's make sure we got a good resubmittal so we're clean on January 5th. If there are no further questions, we'll entertain a motion to continue. Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item's continued to the January 5th TRC at 8:30 a.m. in this location. The applicant will go ahead and advertise for Planning Commission for the January meeting in advance.
Right.
Anticipating we'll have all these questions answered adequately, and we'll be ready to go.
Right. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you all. That'll move us to item number 10, the Fulcrum Truss Manufacturing. This is major development reviewed by Stephen Schoen. Stephen, if you can introduce this one for us.
Yes, sir. Good morning. This is a request approved by final order. Project number MAJ21-000028 is a major development order application submitted by Core Engineering and Consulting on behalf of Fulcrum Building Group LLC. They're requesting to develop a 47,200 square foot truss manufacturing building and a 9,000 square foot lumber building within the what's known as the Woodlawn Commerce Park on a 12.49 plus or minus acre parcel with a future land use of industrial and extractive uses and a zoning district of heavy industrial. The property is located in District 4 and identified by the parcel ID in your staff report. If I could have the staff report entered into the record, please.
So entered. Thank you, sir.
I've had opportunity to discuss the application and staff comments with the applicant's agent. And if I can just take a minute to address planning comment number 7. This is an original Eglin official comment that we received during the future land use amendment stage. At that time, we considered taking those conditions and moving them into what would have become the Woodlawn PUD, industrial PUD. That hasn't occurred as of yet. We are anticipating application for the PUD or the conceptual plan any day now. However, based on the fact that Eglin didn't make a similar comment that would have mirrored those previous comments, staff is of the opinion that number 7 cannot be enforced at this time, and would just like to strike it from the comments unless the board has issue with that.
They made the comment during the land use change process, but didn't make it specific to this?
That's correct. At the time, it was kind of a discussion with the Eglin folks. It was not conditioned in the approval of the future land use. It wasn't not made part of the ordinance that was adopted. So there really isn't much enforcement there. But it was a concern at the time. I'm not sure why it did not carry over to this application, but it did not.
I mean, normally what they're trying to avoid is creating an attractive place for migrating birds,
That's correct.
which obviously are aircraft hazards given this heavy use area. They chose not to make this comment. How are they proposing to do stormwater?
There's a large pond, I believe, on the west side of the site.
Proposed as a wet pond or a dry pond or
It's dry. It's a dry pond.
dry pond?
It attenuates in 6 to 8 hours.
That may be the case, why they did not. I think there was a time frame in the original comment that was 24-hour removal of water, so that may be the case here.
Well, then it appears they've addressed their concerns in the design.
Yep.
Have any other significant comments in there?
No, most of them are just clarification or minor in nature.
I don't see any.
Yes, sir.
I just have a quick question. I know that the county was gonna construct the road. Have they constructed the road to this part of the?
They have not yet.
That was one of our comments, was EDA's leading that project to coordinate on the construction schedule for that
Yeah,
road.
we've been in contact with Ryan and Bruce, and we actually designed off their CAD files and their utilities. So we're gonna continue to be in contact and any changes they make.
Okay.
Very well. Applicant have any questions about any of the comments?
I've already been in contact with Stephen. We had a couple comments about the southern boundary landscaping. We're gonna actually increase the buffer to 30 feet now. And we're gonna use a natural buffer on the back and change the grading to not even touch the back portion to add additional buffering to it was zoned commercial, but it was developed residentially, so we're gonna add an additional buffer area.
Thank you, sir. Stephen, any other comments?
No, sir.
Recommend a motion?
To conditionally approve it and move it to the next PC, pending satisfaction of all outstanding comments.
Thank you, sir. We have recommended motion. Do we have motion at the dais?
They moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. This is a major development. It'll get planning commission and BCC hearings at the appropriate time. Is there anyone in the audience that wishing to ask a technical question or make a technical compliance comment related to this particular application? Seeing none, we have a motion at the dais. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to Planning Commission, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments. That will move us to item number 11, the General Dynamics Warehouse. Minor development reviewed by Bob Baronti. Bob, if you can introduce it for us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, this is project number MIN 21000064, General Dynamics Warehouse. It's a minor development application submitted by Jenkins Engineering on behalf of Skip Royster, requesting to construct a 1,024 square foot warehouse on 2.28 acres with future land use of industrial and extractive uses with a zoning district of heavy industrial. The property is located in District 2, and it's located at 686 OTI Road, Definiak Springs, Florida, and is identified by the parcel number in your staff report. Mr. Chair, can I enter the staff report into record, please?
So entered.
Mr. Chair, there's just minor comments. We had an outstanding comments from the Health Department and Dewberry. We received Dewberry's comment, and it has a very minor comment of just revising the conclusion in the transportation study. I probably during the holiday gotten something from Crystal. I haven't got through it all yet. She reports there's no concern. All the other comments are minor. The applicant is here to speak if you have any questions. This, for your information, this is to replace another warehouse building that was torn down. And the reason why there's no parking provided is it was part of the overall plan where the parking was included. There will not be people coming there. It's just part of the use of the property. Do you have any questions for me before I turn it over to you?
No, I think you did a pretty good job of explaining it, Bob. Thank you very much. We'll hear briefly from the applicant.
Scott Jenkins with Jenkins Engineering, and yeah, this is pretty simple. This is actually a 1,000 square foot warehouse, which will just be used for storage behind their existing gates on their existing complex. Actually doesn't have any water or sewer proposed, so no utilities, strictly just a storage facility.
Out by the machine shop.
Yes, sir.
Operation.
Yes, sir. So it's,
We approved a
General
few years
Dynamics
ago.
is a government contractor that does ordinance stuff. So yeah, it'll be used just for storage of materials, basically. So pretty straightforward. So, but happy to answer any questions.
They make the tiny bombs that become big ones across the street.
It can get kind of loud out there, so.
Yes, we've been listening to them at 11 o'clock for probably 50 years. Any questions from TRC? I'll entertain a motion. Recommend a motion, Bob?
I'm here. I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve pending successful resubmittal and move it to the development order stage.
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, this item is conditionally approved to move forward to DO, subject to satisfaction of any outstanding comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. That moves us to our additional business, approval of the 2022 TRC meeting schedule. That.
I don't see any issues with any of the proposed dates.
Meeting on my birthday, so we can't do that. Yeah.
Oh, is your birthday on there too?
Yeah.
Mine's not this year.
Me either.
I'm sure there's some other meeting that is, but.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Any adjustments to the proposed schedule? As we can be this far out anyway. Then we'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed 2022 TRC meeting schedule.
Motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed likewise? Hearing none, the 2022 meeting calendar is approved. I don't think we have any other business this morning. We'll entertain
So moved.
Second.
a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned.